So, our imposter syndrome is something that we're going to talk about today for 3 Minute Thursday. It's something that everybody deals with at some point in life, whether it's in your writing or another area. That can look different, I guess, for each of us. But it's a real thing. We all struggle with feeling like we aren't who we say we are. Sometimes it can be viewed as hypocrisy. Like, who am I to talk about this because I made this mistake? Well, that's why you're who can talk about it, because you've made the mistake and you know. So, I want to touch base. We've only got the 3 minutes, so I'm going to go quick. But there are three places that I've noticed that we experience imposter syndrome the most. The first one is when we don't know who we are in Christ or who we were created to be. That kind of goes hand in hand. The second place that we see imposter syndrome come to the surface is when we've allowed temporary labels that people have put on us to become permanent labels. We've decided that that's part of who we are, and they're not that way. And the third one is when we're not walking in obedience to our Father. So, those are the three situations where I think we battle or combat imposter syndrome the most. So, how do we deal with it? How do we get rid of it? The first one is in knowing who we were created to be. And I use this analogy a lot. If you've coached with me, you've probably heard it. But who we are is whatever God wove into our DNA when He knit us together in our mother's womb. That is who we are. Nothing else. Only the things that He put in us. And those are going to be character traits that resemble Him. We all have different character traits, so we're not God, but we all have traits that represent Him, whether it's a fruit of the Spirit. Maybe you're just a very patient person, or maybe you're generous. Those are all character traits that resemble our Father and that He knit into the fibers of our very being. Temporary labels are the things that people have told us over our lifetime. You're not good at this. You don't do this. People think you're this. Those are not labels He gave us. Those are labels the world and other people have given us. So I like to think of them as those sticky labels that you get when you go to a horrible event. If you're an introvert, it's a horrible event, I promise. And that's the label you rip off when you leave. Hello, my name is. So we got to get rid of the temporary labels that are not part of who He created us to be. And the last part of it is walking in obedience. And I think sometimes this is where a lot of writers get stuck. God asks us to do something, and we say yes, and then we don't do it. We think that our agreement to it is enough, and it's not. So if God's called you to write that book, are you doing it? Have you started? Because starting is the first step. If you've started, are you in a lull where you're just not working on it? Here's my timer. So we've got to not just say yes to Him, we've got to actually walk in obedience. That's our 3 minutes.